You're listening to the Amateur FanBoy Podcast with your hosts, Mike Urtaza and myself, Chase Aguirre. It's Tuesday, February 12th, about 3 o'clock Pacific time here on the West Coast, and there's not a whole lot of good sports news out there, is there?
There's a couple things, but not as great as it was.
Not being football season, it kind of hurts until the draft, but we can find some stuff to talk about here. The Alliance Football League is taking over. The NBA is losing a ratings war to a spring football league.
It's basically a developmental league. Well, they want to be, but yeah, it looks like they had better ratings on Saturday night than the NBA had. Which is not surprising. I mean, not a lot of people watch the NBA during the season.
Who's watching early February NBA action as opposed to anything football related? I think anything football related can top just about any sport other than the NFL.
Yeah. Well, it's the first weekend. People are a little intrigued. It's football.
And that's what we love, right? We love football.
Yeah, exactly. Now, is this league actually going to, catch on? I'm not sure. I bet the ratings go down this weekend. Like I said, people are just intrigued.
Right. It could definitely just be, first, football after the Super Bowl. People are looking for anything football related to watch, and, people are going to be drawn to that. But say if it were, a couple of months from now after the Super Bowl had already started, say like the Arena Football League, who knows if we'd be talking the same.
Yeah. Now, it has some NFL players. DeMonte Moore, he's a defensive end. It's in the league. He looks like he's the best pass rusher, and he can't even make an NFL team.
J-Ron Elliott from I don't know if the Cowboys still have him on their roster, but former Cowboy J-Ron Elliott's also making an impact for the Alliance Football League and showing that if an NFL team is worth signing.
Yeah. Now, moving on further into the season, we'll see how this goes. They will be trying to compete as a developmental league, which I agree they should. Now, if somehow they come with an agreement with the NFL, allowing, let's say, the practice squad players to play.
I like that idea.
I think it'd be intriguing.
Yeah, it could definitely be sort of kind of like the D League or the G League to the NFL, where you could have players on your practice squad, like you were saying earlier when we were talking. They could have them play in games in the spring and kind of get an idea of what, so they don't lose game action. And that way they'll be allowed to, play. And not only that, they'll hone their skills more and possibly maybe get signed to an actual NFL roster.
Yeah. Now, moving on to NFL news, it looks like Earl Thomas has been released from the Texans.
Man, what a freaking bust that was, man.
Well, I mean, there's so much you could do when a player tears his Achilles. So.
I mean, definitely, but they did give up a 4th-round pick for him, which isn't like a 3rd-round pick or, in some cases with the Cowboys, a 1st-round pick. But, they were probably looking for more than what they got out of him.
I'm not sure if it was basically a 1-year rental with him. He had a $12 million salary for this coming season. So with cutting him now, they don't pay him anything. He has a torn Achilles. I'm not sure if he even plays this season. Yeah. If this might be done with his career. But like I said, this was just a filler for last season because Fuller had gotten injured. They needed an explosive. Well, he wasn't explosive. They needed a receiver.
Actually, one of our good friends and good followers of the show, Aaron Munoz, I saw on Twitter put the Raiders maybe should think about maybe signing him to a 1-year prove-it deal. Oh, yeah, they could use a receiver.
They definitely can use more older players, definitely. I'm not sure. They have Jordy Nelson.
How old is Jordy Nelson?
He's 33, 34. I mean, Demaryius Thomas is 31.
But how much
the problem
more do you think
is
they could get out of
he had lost his burst as it is, and he's not gonna have anything at this point.
Right.
Coming from an Achilles injury.
No, of course.
More than likely, he'll probably sign with the Patriots, probably play a couple games, and then he probably ends up getting cut. Yeah, if he even makes it out preseason. The Patriots always go after these older receivers. They may be coming off an injury. They get them on a really cheap discount and see if there's anything left. Typically, I mean, you look at Chad Johnson or
They tried Cordell Patterson.
yes, exactly. Well, Cordell Patterson
He's still younger, but like
he's
a guy that wasn't
he's
an
an
as
elite
successful.
kick returner and punt returner, and he can run the ball.
But they turned him into a receiver more than he was when he was with the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings, he was a bust, and then he went with the Raiders, and so end of the day, it's probably Demaryius Thomas. It's towards Demaryius Thomas' end of his career, so we'll see what happens from there.
Antonio Brown, what was that post that he put on Facebook on Twitter?
Per Adam Schefter, he's requesting a trade. I'm sure it's not surprising to anybody.
Now my thing is, don't get me wrong, players nowadays very, very dramatic when it comes to the business,
receivers.
Especially receivers. So it's not surprising that a receiver like Antonio Brown would put something out there. Having said that, how do you think the Steelers maybe have something figured out behind the scenes? Because don't get me wrong, Antonio Brown's a damn good receiver, and you definitely want him on your squad. But if he's going to come out here and put out posts about saying goodbye, basically without even being traded yet, you got to think that they got to have something in mind to quell that before the season starts.
I'm not sure. From my understanding, and this is before any issue with the domestic abuse and also speeding and all the off-field issues that we've seen this past offseason, is that teams had contacted the Steelers. The Steelers were looking for a first-round pick. Not one team were willing to offer that, and they stopped discussing trades. So now with all the issues that have come out in the past month, I'm not sure what his trade value is. I don't think many teams know what his trade value is. And to be frank, I don't know if the Steelers are going to be able to even trade him without taking that hit. I mean, for a first round value, if you trade him and you get that $21 dead hit on their cap, then it's doable. But if you're getting a third and fourth, might as well try to amend things and try to get him on the field.
But how amendable is it really? The dude went out and put on Twitter that he's basically done, said.
But the good thing is,
if I'm not mistaken, let me look up the quote real quick.
The Steelers luckily own his rights for 3 seasons. They can force him. Now, do you want that in your locker room? No, probably not. And it's really the fault of the Steelers because they've allowed their stars to be divas, all of them. Now, did they they didn't take care of them as they should, like with Bell. It's kind of, they used him and to a point where he had to force himself not to play for a season to save himself so he can make money, which is understandable.
I mean, on that post, he put #new demands.
Yeah, I mean,
that sounds like a player that either wants to be paid handsomely, or a player that has new demands as far as where he'd like to play football.
So my understanding is last week he was meeting with Clutch.
Yes.
So he was meeting with LeBron's people, and
so the Lakers offered 6 players and a third-round pick.
Yeah, he's going to the Lakers. I mean, LeBron said he needed a star. They didn't ask for what sport.
Antonio Brown fits that, doesn't he?
But in serious, Antonio Brown has kind of gotten into that book of maybe he asked, "What should I do?" And this is the example. They're kind of force yourself out.
He's taking the Anthony Davis route, but for the NFL.
I think that's what it seems like.
That's what it seems like.
So,
too, yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's the best thing for an NFL player, because really, this is not about one player. It's about a whole team, and especially if it was about one player, it'd be a quarterback, and he's not. He's a diva receiver who's 31.
The NBA and the NFL are two completely different businesses. Trying to get yourself traded and get me out type deal for the NFL just is not the same. In the NBA, players have a certain level of control because they're so
it's
huge.
Also the way they built their
and they can and
their rules are a lot different. I mean, the one player, LeBron James, controls a whole organization. Every organization except for the Miami Heat.
And you know why that is? Because the NFL players wear helmets. You don't see their face. Don't get me wrong. Antonio Brown's out there. But NBA players have, like, you can see their faces.
The difference is
you're more likely to notice
you're
more likely to notice an NFL player, an NBA player that sits the bench than an NFL player that may be the third receiver on a team and is a decent name.
It's also different in the NBA. It's a players' league, and in the NFL, it's not.
It is, and the rosters are smaller too.
It's different.
Yes.
And the NFL, they don't need you. you could be any. I mean, unless you're a star player, a star quarterback, any other position, they don't need you. They can get rid of you. Your salary means nothing. Yeah. You have really no guarantees at all.
Ask Terrell Owens and Randy Moss about that.
Look at Vinny Curry, who just got released today. Mm-hmm. He signed last year with the Bucks. He came off a Super Bowl win. He signed a mega deal with the Bucks, and they cut him. And all he got was basically $11 million last year, and they didn't owe him anything else. What guarantees does a player have in the NFL? Nothing. That's why the teams control all the rights, and that's sad. Unfortunately, as a fan, I'm okay with that.
Especially when it's your team and you want to keep that star player on your team, and it's easier because they have more control.
Now, as a player perspective, you got to go get your money. This is why Bell, doing what he did, controlling his fate and not getting himself injured before he's able to get a huge lump sum of guarantees, is why it's unfortunately, it may be something that's going to be a trend coming forward in the NFL, but we'll see.
But the difference between the Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown thing is Antonio Brown has 3 years left on his contract.
Well, on top,
Le'Veon Bell is going from franchise tag to franchise tag, and don't get me wrong, the franchise tag is very nice for teams like the Cowboys and for teams like the Niners and for any team who's looking to keep a star player in. But you gotta at some point let a player go where he wants to go. If he wants to play for a big contract, you gotta let him go out and sign it.
You either look for 1 year. And this is what's going to happen is the next collective bargaining 2022, they're either going to get rid of it or they're going to restrict it even more. There was a restriction as of now that you can only be franchise tagged 3 times and then you're franchisable. I bet you it's going to be 1 time. It'll only allow it to be 1 time.
I'm going to make a bold prediction on this podcast. We're going to have a work stoppage in the NBA and the NFL at the same time, and possibly baseball too.
Yeah, baseball has a lot bigger issues than any other sport right now.
And that's crazy.
And I mean, there's hundreds of players not signed. This is the big issue that started as last year. But really, the fault is with MLB. And that's a whole other discussion we'll have another day with some people from the baseball world.
Yeah, we'll have to get a couple of my Twitter friends from the Dodgers to get on here and talk some Dodger baseball.
Now, going back to Antonio Brown, what's going to end up happening is either he's going to have to report for the Steelers if he's not traded, or he's going to be traded. And if he's going to be traded, it's got to be before March 17th because they owe him about $2.5 million. Now, trading him, you're going to take the hit, the $21 million hit on your cap.
Right.
Now, this is the Steelers' fault. This is why when you convert salary into bonuses, you're really pushing the money into future years, and even though you're paying them up front,
the Jerry Jones special.
Yes, and things like this, when players get injured or they retire or they're disgruntled and want to be released, this is why you shouldn't do that. And this is, you end up screwing yourself over, and now you're going to be tight on space. You're really wasting money for that. But we'll see what happens. I don't know where he's going to go. If he does get traded, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes to a team like a Colts or an organization like that. I'm not sure. Everyone really wants to push the 49ers narrative. I really don't see it unless we get him extremely cheap, which I doubt. And I don't see the Steelers purposely sending him to a team that he wants to go.
No team will probably offer more than a second-round pick for him.
I think if
at the end of the day, the Steelers are going to have to decide, do they want to try and mend the relationship, or do they want to try and get what you can for him, whether it's a second-round pick, maybe some future third, fourth round, some filler on top of that, and get out of that contract and possibly, because Juju, dude, that boy's coming. And at the end of the day,
I don't know.
He can be that next big receiver for them. So
see, the difference with Juju, though, and this is off
topic.
Just like
you were talking about, he's expendable.
The difference with Juju is he's never really been double covered. Now, I feel like he was the better receiver last year between the two. And that's, I think, because Antonio Brown always is double covered. He's always, put in position to it's harder on him, where Juju it's easier. I think Big Ben's stats go down. I think Juju's actual stats go down as well. But finishing off Antonio Brown and why he doesn't go to the 49ers is they've been having issues with domestic abuse since 2011.
Right.
They just dealt with Reuben Foster with his girlfriend. And his ex-girlfriend showing up. I'm not sure if they want to get that scrutiny where they continue to have it, especially where they have a whole new head coach and GM who in the past 2 years have only collectively won 10 games. So now Antonio Brown, if he does come, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be hitting over 4,000 to 4,500 yards. He should be over 35 touchdowns if he can stay healthy.
Yes.
Dante Pettis will be outstanding.
Him
with George Kittle. Now, George Kittle's stats will probably go down as in yards, but his touchdowns will go up with Antonio Brown. It puts you... Antonio Brown makes your team into a top 5 offense if you have the correct scheme.
It's kind of like the LeBron James of receivers. He goes there and he just makes it happen.
It makes it happen, but really... the ego, the cancer, you kind of get that T.O. vibe.
Yes.
And
that's exactly what I say. He gives off that T.O., that Randy Moss, that diva vibe, which isn't going to sit well with,
It kind of sucks to have in that locker room, but at the same time, they're so good that you're willing to deal with it. And we'll see what happens. I just want to say, please change your mustache color back, Antonio Brown. You look kind of disgusting with the yellow.
That blonde mustache got to go.
No,
man.
Everything else looks nice and clean, but then you got the pervy stash.
You're trying to do the Antonio Brown. You're trying to do the Odell Beckham, but the complete opposite.
Yes.
So our boy, one of my good Twitter follows, Mike Fish on Twitter, came out today and put out a post basically saying that Earl Thomas has found himself a home in Austin. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to relate to possibly where he might be signing, i.e. the Cowboys or the Texans or any team in that general area. But if he does end up going through and purchasing that house and then possibly sells his mansion or whatever he's got going on in Seattle, it could look like Earl Thomas could be playing football for a certain team with a star on their helmet next year.
We'll see. From Austin, Texas to Santa Clara, it's only a 4-hour flight.
You can fly anywhere within 24 hours, just about anywhere nowadays.
Now, I don't want to go straight into pushing the narrative that he's going to go to Dallas.
No,
more likely that if Dallas wants him and they're willing to pay what he wants, they'll get him.
Of course.
Because that's where he wants to go. But he's from Austin. He went to school at Texas. Yep. So it's not too much of a,
No, you definitely can't read too much into it.
You can.
I'm the world's biggest Cowboys fan. I'll read into it till the nitty details, as Mike will tell you. But at the end of the day, the guy just came off of a torn ACL.
No, he didn't tear it. He broke his arm.
He broke his arm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, take that out. Yeah, so he broke his arm. He flipped out the Seahawks. He basically, there's no way in hell he's going back to the Seahawks.
Oh,
so,
of course. Unless
without
the
a
Seahawks,
doubt, he's gone.
Franchise him, but they're not going to.
But then we've got to put into account, will a team coming off a broken arm, which isn't like tearing an ACL, but...
No, it doesn't. It's not going to affect him in any way.
But at the end of the day, is some team going to give him a 1-year deal to make sure he's healthy, or do you think there's going to be plenty of teams? And I'm saying there will definitely be plenty of teams that are going to give him multiple years, but at the end of the day, if their teams say the Cowboys were to offer 1 year with 10, 12 million with some incentives, do you think he'd be more inclined to take that or to take a 3-year deal with a team, the Cleveland Browns?
He just came off as a pissed off person with the Seattle Seahawks, who they wouldn't give him what he wanted, and he didn't want to play on the 1-year deal because he has no leverage, he has no incentive. If something happens, like he broke his arm, he could get devalued, especially going into free agency. I think he's gonna look for one big last contract. I believe he should. Now, if he, like I said, I think if the Cowboys and everything works out, he wants to be a Cowboy, and if they are willing to spend what he's looking for or around that price range.
Which is why I brought up, if they offer him a 1 year, maybe with an option, does he take that?
No, he does not take it.
You really don't think so?
Not 1 year. It has to be 3 to 4 years.
If a lot of teams that are playoff contenders are offering him 3 years, I can totally understand that. But if a team that's maybe like the Bucks offers him 3 years, would he really rather go play? He already just got. He wants to play where he wants to play.
Yes, but
at the end of the day,
you got to take care of yourself financially, and you want the assurance that if something happens, that you're covered for the next few years and you're guaranteed.
Jerry Jones is all about helping and making that happen.
But
you know as well as I do.
At the end of the day, you got to get that contract within. You don't sign it. Look, there's going to be dozens of teams are willing to sign him and provide him the financial
Well, there will be.
that he's looking for. Look at the 49ers. He would go to a team that he plays in the system. He has Sherman right there, his buddy. You can recreate what you had in Seattle. You get to play Seattle twice a year, and you financially get what you want.
If we're being honest, where you could really recreate it is Dallas, because Dallas has Chris Richard.
So you can play with Chris Richard for a season
Chris
before
Richard
Chris
is the
Richard
actual
leaves.
mind behind the defense in Seattle.
Except he wasn't there before his defense coordinator. He was at Florida.
Just saying. He was there last couple years.
And they fired him. Well, they didn't fire him. His contract was up. But end of the day, I don't think a coach is going to really define you as much. Like Sherman. I like to push the Sherman narrative and why I think he would want to come here. End of the day, he's going to look at his money and where he wants to be. If the Cowboys are willing to give him what he wants, he'll go there.
I think without a doubt the Cowboys will offer him at least 2 to 3 years, without a doubt. The question is the money, and at the end of the day, you guys
are Stephen Jones already said that they're not going out there to spend money. They're not going to go sign a big free agent. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen
for a second.
But they have contracts to pay. Are they willing to not pay D-Law?
Hey, no, listen to me. I'm taking over this right now. Going back to Mike Fisher, he released a complete article on everything. The Cowboys, everyone wants to believe they're in salary cap hell. The Dallas Cowboys,
I'm not saying that they aren't.
Listen to me when I say this. The Dallas Cowboys could re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence. They can pay Dak Prescott. They can pay Amari Cooper. And they can still sign Earl Thomas to whatever deal he wants.
But at the end of the day,
that is more than possible.
You're looking at that as of right now, this current cap situation. You're really looking at 2-3 years down the line where it's going to hurt you. And then you're going to put yourself back in the same situation that you guys were in.
The Cowboys know how to make contracts work to where it does not hurt them. They're
one of the worst teams to do that. They are always in cap hell. Now that they got out of it, the cap hell.
I will agree to disagree there. I will agree
because
to disagree.
The two teams that are actually the best at producing and staying under the cap and having a healthy cap are the Eagles and the 49ers.
And how many Super Bowls have they won in the last 20 years?
I mean, how many Super Bowls have you guys won in the last 20 years?
Just about as many as you have.
Exactly. I mean, we have the same amount of Super Bowls. But at the end of the day, though, we haven't been in cap hell. We went to the Super Bowl, actually, the past decade.
Do you actually believe you're not in cap hell, Mike?
We're not. We have $60 million in cap space.
All right.
We just came out $110 million of cap space last season. We have the best capologists in the game. So,
all right.
And Parag is one of the best analytical cap space. He does magic with contracts. Literally, with Jimmy Garoppolo's contract, we paid him $42 million last year, and now for the rest of his contract, it's a lower amount. We don't really give out bonuses, so everything is basically salary, so that we don't push money down the line. Now, do I think the Cowboys end up with Earl Thomas? I think they lead the chances of getting Earl Thomas because Earl Thomas wants to go there. Now, if they're willing to push the money, then I think he's a Cowboy. Do I think it's the best interest for the Cowboys? Probably not. There's gonna be other options at safety. They can draft a safety. There's a ton of safeties in this market right now.
I'm gonna read this direct quote from Mike Fish from the 24/7 Sports article he posted. Quote, but none of these things financially preclude the Cowboys from chasing a big fish. And in fact, with an expected $50 million of cap room available, it's almost as if Dallas, quote unquote, balance its checkbook with designs on being able to add just the right player at the right time. That same logic coming into play with the Cowboys' refusal to give up a first-round pick for Thomas.
Yeah, like I said, if they want him, they can have him. Is that going to happen? We'll see. It really will see. Because at the end of the day, you really gotta. Is he gonna be your only free agent that you go after? Is there
based off our roster, we don't need too much. All we need is Earl Thomas,
you're gonna need
and
to
our
sign
defense is pretty
Jalen
stacked.
Smith next season. He's gonna have to have a new contract, and
Jalen Smith's still on his rookie deal, son.
Yeah, but he's going into his third season. This is when you usually
he's going into his second year playing.
Third season.
That doesn't count towards the cap.
Oh, you're talking about the first season because he was on IR season, right? So that pushes his 4th year.
There you go.
Okay, but still, at this point, you want to kind of pay your players ahead of time before they hit their potential to get paid
and that's
more.
fine. But most of the guys like the Byron Jones, the Zekes, the Daks, as much as people want to say, oh, they're gonna have to pay them, the Cowboys have respect with their players to where they will take, I won't say less money, but they will take the contract and defer the money, get more guaranteed money, so that they can get a guy like Earl Thomas.
You're talking deferring it to future years.
Yes, which is what they did with Tony Romo, and that worked out perfectly.
It did not work out.
It worked out fine. They made plenty of playoffs, had many a chance at the playoffs with that roster.
But it kind of put you in a tough situation cap wise, because you always look at the way I look at it.
At the end of the day, any team can get out of a cap issue.
But luckily, you had a quarterback that you drafted 4th round.
Yes.
Who ended up getting paid $500,000 a year when Tony Romo finished his career.
So
luckily, you got in a portion at this current stage where all NFL teams kind of want to be in.
So are you telling me that if Tony Romo hadn't gotten hurt, that they would still be in cap hell?
Probably. I mean, they were in cap. I mean, didn't they have like a $30 million dead space?
Yeah, but that was happened last year too, and they had plenty of cap space last year. Romo finally out the books this year.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But you really don't want to be in that spot where you're.
I'm not saying they want to be in that spot, but when you have a 24, 20, what? He's not even 22, 23 Dak.
Dak's probably around there. Yeah.
He's like 23 years old. When you have a 23-year-old quarterback still on a rookie deal, who's as talented as he is,
that's what I'm saying.
The best, and I'm going to say it right now, I don't care if I'm a homer, the best running back in the league in Ezekiel Elliott, and a top 5 or 10 receiver in Amari Cooper, and a budding defense with a lot of young talent, you go for an Earl Thomas. If it puts you in the books in 3 or 4 years now, you're not looking 3 or 4 years now. You're looking these next 2 to 3 years where you can compete for a freaking Super Bowl.
The interesting part is, like we've been discussing off the podcast, is if, let's say, Jason Garrett, for some reason, they didn't extend him. He's kind of in a limbo.
Oh, he without a doubt, if he doesn't come through this year, he's done.
Now, if things just don't go your way and you guys don't make the playoffs and you're kind of squeaking by, does that put a damper in the future success?
I mean, it will, but it won't, because at the end of the day, there will be a few coaching candidates, probably.
Well, even internal, you could go with Chris Richard.
There is a guy out in Oklahoma that might be looking for a job in a couple years, and a certain guy in New Orleans that could be a free agent next year. So,
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It'd be interesting if you guys did get Sean Payton.
Jerry Jones is always a master manipulator. He pulls his strings
I'm sure
nobody else.
He discuss off, in secrecy with these players, and
like
he knows
the NBA,
Sean
that's
Payton.
not tampering.
Now, I really, the good thing with the current state of the Cowboys is Jerry Jones has really been off and off on the front office. He's not as, his son Stephen Jones is really running the show. He's done a great job. Yes. I mean, he's built a great defense. He has a great offensive line when it's healthy.
The complete opposite of Jim Buss with the Lakers to Jerry Buss, but continue.
Yes. He's done better than his dad has as of late. And I don't want to say it, but really old Jerry Jones reminds me of old Al Davis, where they're kind of out of they shouldn't be running an organization anymore. They should be running as an owner and not as a general manager.
As messed up as it says, I've said multiple times, just like Raiders fans were hoping for Al Davis to leave.
Or at least let somebody else run the team.
Exactly. That's what the Cowboys are waiting for with Jerry.
Well, that's what happened already.
And he's like Magic Johnson. He's the face of that franchise now. But Stephen Jones, as you said, is the man running the show.
Now, if he tells his son, hey, we need to do this, does his son go, no?
To a point, but if Jerry comes out and says, hey, go get Earl Thomas, I think Stephen will have no problem making that happen, because he sees just like everyone else in Cowboys Nation sees that this team gets 1 to 2 more good, decent defensive players to go with that really, really good offensive line. It's going to be finally fully healthy this year with Travis Frederick coming back. That team, and I say it every year, that team is capable of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you've been saying it since like 10 years ago.
But I've really, the last few years, it's been more than reasonable.
Look, and I'm sorry to say it, I think I see Jason Garrett as I see Jeff Fisher. They're just 500 coaches. They're
and that very 500.
Well. I mean,
that may well be.
Even though he's had one season under 500, he's not going to be the coach to take you over the top.
They all call Jeff Fisher Mr. 7 and 9.
Yeah, he'll get you to to a decent
But
where
you may
if
not
you
be able
got
to
a
get him over
different
that hump
coach,
in the postseason.
that coach would take your team and excel it. Because unfortunately, at the end of the day, you're kind of in a weird situation with your offensive coordinator. And I don't want to say, because I don't know how this is going to work out. It could work out. Who knows?
Right.
But at the end of the day, we're going to know at the end of the season or even mid that season where you guys are at and where you're going to be. Because if you can get rid of this, and I'll say this, Jason Garrett, you'll probably never win a Super Bowl.
I mean, we may never win a Super Bowl, but at this point, it's put up or shut up for him.
But from that on, we'll probably discuss Cowboys quite a lot because Chase is a Cowboys fan, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, Mike's a Niners fan.
Yeah. So moving on. Now at the current state, the Combine's in about 2.5 weeks. So we'll be having great discussions about the Combine coming up.
Gonna get a certain RJ Ochoa, one of the staff writers at Blogging the Boys. Hopefully going to get him on sometime later this week. We'll discuss Cowboys, Niners, draft, all good things NFL.
Now, I want to say, man, these receivers coming in this draft, they're monsters.
DK Metcalf, dude, is loaded. This draft is loaded at receiver.
Yeah, and it's Metcalf, it maybe doesn't have a top-end receiver, like an elite receiver,
but
it has a lot of good, potentially end of the first to second round.
A lot of Michael Gallups.
And it wouldn't surprise you if one of these receivers come out and they kill the Combine and they show up, they might go in the top 10.
There's always one or two receivers, running backs, whatever, that always end up pushing their way up in the top 10 after the Combine. And
the receivers this year, it's quite different than the past few years because we've had some great running backs come through.
Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, Christian
McCaffrey.
And these different trends where now, back in the day, they were really, you had to hit a certain height, a certain weight, it really doesn't matter. If you can catch the ball at this point, there's really, within one position, there's different positions. There's a receiving back, there's so many aspects in this new age NFL. It's insane. Within even the receivers, the groups, you can really break it down to each one being a different kind of type of receiver and different. It's so mind-boggling how things happen and change in the NFL. Another thing that had come out today was with the Arizona Cardinals. There was a rumor, and I know it's been debunked, but we're just going to discuss it.
That's what we're here for. We're here to discuss
Cliff Kingsbury in college had said that Kyler Murray, if he had the option to draft him at number 1, he would. And that had a couple weeks ago when Kyler Murray announced that he would be coming out in the NFL draft.
And now he's coming back and saying Josh Rosen's our guy.
Well, before we get there, he had said in a interview if Kyler Murray was there at 1, and if he was the team, he would have drafted him. A rumor came out today that they are potentially looking at trading Josh Rosen and drafting possibly Kyler Murray at 1.
Yes.
And then, yes, it has been already, the Arizona Cardinals have come out and said that that's not the case. Of course they're going to say that.
Yeah, of course. That's what they have to say. They can't, what are they going to come out and say, oh yeah, we're trading,
I don't know.
We're trading Josh Rosen.
It's possible that they keep with Josh Rosen, even though Josh Rosen doesn't necessarily fit in Cliff Kingsbury's offense very well.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, it makes it so intriguing if that happened. If Kyler Murray was drafted at 1, it would totally mess up with the whole draft.
If Kyler Murray gets picked number 1, I think heads are going to spin around the NFL.
Oh, yeah, they're going to be like, you need to fire the whole Arizona coaching staff.
That's going to be a bad look for them if they go that route.
But at the end of the day, it'd be interesting. So we'll see. Now, if Nick Bosa does fall at 2, I've seen rumors that the Niners are not actually interested in Nick Bosa, and they do prefer Josh Allen. I'm not sure how far that truth that is. It would be quite crazy if that actually happened. I don't believe it. I think Nick Bosa is the best player in the whole draft. He should go 1. Now, does he fit the Arizona Cardinals 3-4 defense? You're taking him off the ground. You're not letting him rush as much as you'd like. He has to go into coverage. He'd be an outside linebacker. I'm not sure he would be good at it. He wouldn't be elite his value kind of drops at 1. And this is where Josh Allen, I think, fits better at outside linebacker in the 3-4.
If you really want to know my opinion, someone who's probably getting talked about, but probably not as much as he should be, Ed Oliver out of Houston. That dude is a freaking monster. He's a Khalil Mack light. That dude is going
he would be Aaron Donald.
Well, Aaron Donald, but I mean, as far as coming out of a college, like everyone underrated Khalil Mack, and the Raiders took him, and sure enough, every player taken above him for the most part.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Aaron Donald because he was an elite player coming out of college. What they hit him on is his size. And end of the day, why does size really matter? Especially if you're going down the middle, the lower man always wins, and he's strong as a freaking truck.
Oh no, yeah, he is.
And Ed Oliver kind of has that way with him. And there's even talks that he's so athletic that he could actually play middle linebacker, which is crazy to me because his best technique, his best attribute was rushing the passer through the middle. So it'll be interesting. But going back to Nick Bosa and Josh Allen. Quinton Williams from Alabama is also an option at 1, and he also fits he would play DN in a 3-4. So we'll see. We'll see what Arizona does, and here comes the combine, and we'll see what Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's going to kill it.
Don't forget Dexter Lawrence out of Clemson.
And Lawrence, the only thought...
Who won the national championship.
Yeah. I think he didn't play, though, because he had PEDs.
He might have. He might be right on that.
So I don't know how that's going to affect him in the draft, so he might actually be a steal. He'll probably drop to the second because he's a first-round pick.
Could be like a Randy Gregory.
Yeah, but Randy Gregory now has gotten his life together, but it's kind of in that process. But it's a little different because he does have some off-the-field stuff on top of PEDs. The PEDs are kind of like you're kind of scared with him a little bit, but end of the day, I could care less. He's probably gonna go into the program, and they're gonna.
At the end of the day, if the dude's talented, he'll make it work in the NFL. Yeah. They'll make it work.
So we'll see with that. We'll see what happens with the quarterbacks. I think it's possible, and I will say if Arizona doesn't draft Murray at 1, I could see them trading back because, this is such a deep pass rushing group.
It is.
Even if they don't even go with a pass rusher, what they really need is an offensive tackle. They need a guard.
And there's a perfect one rating right there for Jonah Williams from Alabama.
Yeah, and then Taylor from Florida.
Yes. And Greg Little from Ole Miss.
Yeah, Greg Little will most likely be at the back of the first.
Yeah, he'll back at the first. But like I said, you're talking about if they wanted to trade back, they could trade back.
They can trade back. They maybe can trade
like
up
the Niners
or
sorry, not Niners. Maybe like a team like the Bengals that are in the middle there that could use maybe a defensive end.
But end of the day, though, if you're betting on a Cliff Kingsbury being your head coach,
yes,
and he has an offensive mindset,
you got to build around
You've already invested in your quarterback, and you drafted him in the top 10 last year.
Yes.
You really don't have a need at pass rusher, but you take the best player at 1, of course. But maybe you should, spend more on offense because at the end of the day in the NFL, you're gonna succeed if you have an offensive coordinator or a head coach, and then you've already spent on your quarterback. Might as well keep, protect the quarterback, get him weapons. David Johnson was terrible last season, not because of his fault,
but because Arizona couldn't get a game plan around him. They had a
terrible offensive coordinator. They fired him. Leftwich was the offensive coordinator. He did a little better with that, but it doesn't help when your offensive line's shit.
And their offensive line is shit, which is why, like Mike said, they really should consider trading back and possibly taking an offensive lineman like Greg Little or the guy at Alabama.
End of the day, though, the Cardinals have holes all over their offense. Especially, they have a little bit less holes on defense.
They're gonna need a few picks.
It's a few picks. Where trading back, I think if you get a potential first or even a second,
you get a future first, a couple this year's second.
If the Giants trade up to 1, if they get Haskins from my understanding, I saw a tweet that they don't like Murray because of his size, which is understandable. And then people will say, well, how many batted balls has he had in college? And he's only had 5, but he's played on the best offensive line in college, basically.
And like I said, and that's all true, but you've seen Drew Brees, you've seen Russell Wilson, you've seen guys like Baker Mayfield be successful.
Yes, but with the Giants, I understand they want a bigger quarterback who's playing it in the cold most of the end of the season, who's trying to get you in the playoffs. You want a player. I'm not sure how big Murray's hands are, but I can't imagine.
Didn't they draft a guy with good size that was backup for Eli Manning that ended up being nothing?
You talking about from Cal?
Yeah.
He got cut and he's on the Jets as the backup to Sam Darnold.
Size isn't everything, folks.
Well, no, it's not. But I mean, you really Murray I'm not sure how I can place him in a cold weather team. If he came to a team,
I'm going to make another bold prediction on this podcast. Kyler Murray will be the best quarterback from this draft.
and to say he actually had last year, he said Baker would be the best quarterback in the draft. And as of right now, it looks like Baker's going to be the best quarterback in the draft. Now, I don't believe so.
Mike LeVar Ball, I speak
I don't
into
think
existence.
there's going to be an elite quarterback in this draft. They're probably going to be a good one or two good quarterbacks. I like Haskins, and I believe he should be the first quarterback taken. And then there's Stephen A. Smith out there who's saying he's a running quarterback.
No, he can definitely do more
not
than
true.
that.
He's run for like 100 yards in college, and he's thrown for 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. So,
but if you
do I think he'll ever be an elite quarterback? No. If he was in any other draft, I don't think he would be a top.
But we can go the same route if you want to talk about with Kyler Murray having the best offensive line. Dwayne Haskins had a pretty good offensive line.
He also has the best receivers in the league, too.
And he didn't go anywhere close to a playoff spot like Kyler Murray did with that.
Well, it doesn't help that you have a bunch of controversy with your head coach and he's suspended for a couple games.
That's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, Kyler Murray is, I think, more talented than Dwayne Haskins.
I think on a athletic standpoint, sure, he has a pretty decent arm as well. But if I was gonna get fired and I was gonna put my lifeline on my life on the line, I would rather do it with Haskins, who I think can stay healthy, who can
but
get
can he though?
I think he can. I think now the injury game is kind of like a random bug. So
it is.
But potentially, if you're looking at a player that's 6'4" compared to a player that's potentially 5'10", on a good day with some good shoes, we'll see. We'll see on the combine. I feel like Murray's going to come out 5'9", so we'll see. And also his hand size is going to be a big deal, so we'll see. Now, we're almost done with this podcast. Is there any final thoughts that you may have?
Well, I mean, as far as final thoughts, I mean, we go back to the Antonio Brown situation. At the end of the day, I think the Browns, Antonio Brown, the Steelers are going to have to trade him, whether it's before March 17th or by the draft. I just do not think they can go into next season with that headache on their roster. And if they do, you can mark my words now, the Steelers will be way under 500.
I mean, they'll be having a new head coach too.
Yes. Mike Tomlin will be gone.
Let us know at our Twitter.
At Amateur Fan Pod. And our Instagram, at Amateur Fan Pod.
Check us out on SoundCloud. We are also just created a YouTube channel, which we're providing clips from these podcasts as well as the full podcast. So you can check it out different places, wherever you like to hear.
And you guys can always email us at amateurfanpod@gmail.com.
Except amateur is spelled incorrect.
It is spelled incorrect. We will fix that.
Check it out on our Twitter.
But definitely send us in questions, any topics you guys want us to discuss, and we'll do our best to get them on the show.
If you are wanting to come on the podcast, just let us know.
DM me at Chase Aguirre or at Urtaza Blue.
We're willing to put you on, and I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy your day.
Have a great day, guys.